Hello, good evening, and welcome to MindFULL Live 309. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is 9:16 on the 14th of the 11th, 2023, the year of our Lord 2023. This evening, we want to talk about the way the mind works, one king says. We actually can talk about that, because I have something interesting, an interesting study I was taking in about the differences in how the mind works in generations as they pass by. It seems like the mind of the Generation Z, Gen Z, it seems like their mind works a bit differently. Or at least the statistical results and evidence seems to point to some variations in how Gen Z is going. But who knows, we may get to that. We might get to that. I asked in the Discord server any topic that people want to jump in, want us to cover over for this live. So, if you're inside the Discord server, you can say those things and we could pull up some of the research and stories about it before. Just by the way, a benefit for being inside of the Discord server. But welcome. We're live over on YouTube, we're live on Instagram and on TikTok. Hit that like button wherever you are viewing this. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button over there, in case you're wondering. And if you are looking at this on repeat over on YouTube, please take the moment at this point in time to hit that like button. It really does help. It goes a long way. Allows the algorithm to know this is some good stuff. And if you aren't yet subscribed to Nathan Spring over there on YouTube, you can head over there and do just that. The mind is the most powerful force in our consciousness that we have in our consciousness. How do we know that? How do we know that our mind is the driving force of our consciousness? Where do the thoughts come from? Before our mind ponders on these thoughts, where do they come from? What is the well from which we draw these thoughts? Is it really our mind, or is it some other force out there? Interesting questions. Electrons have a magnetic resonance field that acts as the electromagnetic waves that move. Okay, sir. We can't think about what we don't know. Are you sure? Are you sure we cannot? So how do we figure out new things? The answer to where thoughts come from is a rabbit hole. It would be very interesting for you to dig going down. You want to find out about thinking and how the mind works and all of that. Try and figure out where thoughts come from. That's a kind of key part to all of this. It's how do we know that our conscious thoughts make sense? How are we sure that the thoughts we think are realistic thoughts that we should act upon? Why do we trust those thoughts? I think environment plays about 80% of it. Quite possible. There's a biological theory that if you take apart an organism in their brain also, you could from that organism decipher the kind of environment that they were maximally suited to live in. So if you take apart a human being with precision and knowledge, you could, as it were, retro build or back build the earth and the earth's environment and ecosystem from looking at a human being and their biological reality. So you can see that their lung functions on gas, gaseous oxygen. So you could figure out about the Earth's atmosphere and all that. Good night, Sylvan. You're all going down into some esoteric kind of topics there, RL and One King. That's not the direct headline that I'm looking to jump in today. Not that I have a problem with those topics, so keep asking if you are interested. But the headline that I saw that really grabbed my attention today, it honestly surprised me a bit. It honestly surprised me a bit because it's not something you regularly see in Trinidad and Tobago. This kind of at least seeming accountability. Usually it seems like people just fail upward and they don't get any any kind of negative consequence for their actions. But looky over here. Lisa Agard replaced as TSTT CEO. Imagine that. I was honestly surprised. Really, I was surprised. Lisa Agard has been replaced as the Chief Executive Officer of TSTT with immediate effect. The removal comes in the wake of a cyber attack on the state-owned company and criticisms over how it was handled. In a media release, TSTT said the Board of Directors of the Telecommunication Services of Trinidad and Tobago announces the appointment of Mr. Kent Weston to the post of Chief Executive Officer acting. Following the departure of Ms. Lisa Agard, Mr. Weston's appointment will take immediate effect. No to what, user? No to what? Well, I guess sorry didn't cut it, sir. Sorry, the sorry wasn't enough for the board. The board decided, well, sorry wasn't enough, you got to go bye-bye. And, you know, I don't blame them. Because in terms of private sector, this is how the private sector generally runs. It's only like the government sector, the government service, public service, the state, that you could get away with ruining companies, ruining a company reputation at the very top of the company and remain in the post. Like, our Prime Minister doesn't want to fire his Minister of National Security because he says that does nothing. That's not what he's intended to do. That's not how he wants to run this thing. And I understand what he's speaking about, especially when, you know, you look back at the People's Partnership and the roller coaster of changing cabinet members and all of that. I understand you don't want that image. But if you are talking about running this thing nearly as a company, where there must be some level of accountability. If you are in a position of leadership and the company is failing or floundering or made a decision that brought the company into disrepute, you're the one to take the blow. You're the leader. I mean, that's what it means to be the leader. That's why they pay you the big money. Like, okay, at least justify your big salary. Your big salary says that you're able to take the weight of the blame for this and take it on your shoulders. You made the wrong decisions. You take it and ride out into the sunset. That's why they were paying you so well. At least that's the way I see it. And maybe it was the way the board saw it too. But you could understand why to some extent. This situation really brought quite a bit of a furor. And the way the news was slow releasing the story, the fact that it was known to TSTT early October, yet every step of the way TSTT kept key information away from their users, allowing them to be at risk, saying and lying, seemingly lying about how dangerous it was. So it's not surprising, really and truly. Now, this is a bit interesting though. The minister, I've been asking about this ministry and, well, I guess this minister for some time now, because I'm curious. I want to know what is going on with this ministry. I want to know what's going on with this ministry and this minister. Minister, take cybersecurity seriously. Minister of Digital Transformation, Hassel Bacchus. How many of you all know that name? You all know that name? You all know your Minister of Digital Transformation? Just a question. Do you all happen to know that name? How many of y'all are currently in the digital sphere in the country of Trinidad and Tobago and have no idea who the Minister of Digital Transformation is? Dream Chaser says, honestly speaking, I have never heard that name. Sir, I can assure you, you are not alone. I can assure you, you are not alone, sir. I'm pretty sure there are multiple people who have never heard that name before also. Minister of Digital Transformation Hassel Backus is urging people to take cybersecurity seriously, as he believes the solution to combating the increase in cyber attacks is sensitizing people on proper security measures. And let me tell you all why this kind of offends me. I nearly feel insulted by this. The Minister of Digital Transformation is saying the way to tackle this is just by sensitizing people. But this minister is supposed to be fully aware that there's gaping missing legislation in the country's cybersecurity sphere. Shouldn't he be aware of this? Basically, all of the cybersecurity analysts that speak on the issue since it happened, that spoke on the issue since it happened, are saying the same thing. Yes, people need to pay more attention privately. They need to up their care for security in the cybersphere. Yes, that's true. But the reality is we are being left in the open because there's a hole left by gaping legislation, missing legislation. And how could it be? Why, Nisi? Why? We missing you on the earlies, Nisi. Everything okay? Do we need to send a checkup out there? And why is it that a minister, someone inside the cabinet who has the ability to push for writing legislation, you are the minister in charge of digital transformation. If anybody is supposed to be in charge of pushing the legislation to digitally transform our cybersphere, it should be the Minister of Digital Transformation. Why is the Minister of Digital Transformation talking about sensitizing people on the proper security measures? Sir, yes, thank you for the knowledge. But here's what I want. Here's what I want. Leave the sensitization and the knowledge for the Ministry of Education. Let them educate the children in the schools. Allow the Ministry of Social Affairs, Social Welfare and all of them, they could deal with the elderly and the at-risk with your help, but they deal with them in sensitizing them on those issues. Minister, please, you are the Minister of Digital Transformation. Transform the digital world, please. Write the laws, please. We have been waiting on these laws for some time now. The Attorney General has been promising it for a while now. So how about we bring it forward? And when the Minister of Digital Transformation gets to speaking about what we should be doing, he should be talking about the laws that they have. Good night. The TSTT leak was something any kid hacker could pull off. We spoke about the nature of the leak already. We spoke about that already. And yes, it's not that it's some magnificent, super brilliant something where somebody is in a dark room in a corner typing up code all on their own. Most oftentimes, a lot of these things is just getting someone within the network to open an email. That's about it. Getting someone in the network to open an email. So I am not necessarily most upset about the fact that someone opened an email and put themselves at risk. That's not even where much of the argument is, much of the contention is. Much of the contention is in the fact that TSTT didn't inform their customers. And because of lacking legislation, there was no legal requirement for TSTT to inform their customers. Hackers claim courts Pricesmart cybersecurity breached. Regional cybersecurity websites say Pricesmart and Courts Caribbean's online shopping website, ShopCourts, have been hacked. The stolen data is said to include information on possibly up to 200,000 customers, such as names, genders, email addresses, account passwords, ID information, dates of birth, and phone numbers. It's also said to include order details for customers, much as billing and shipping addresses, purchase dates, purchase locations, shipping information, order totals, and payment methods. And now, When you combine that with the fact that there was a bit of a brouhaha coming out between Pricesmart and a bank, where it was revealed that there were double charges on certain cards coming out from Pricesmart. Now, the bank and Pricesmart said they resolved that issue. But when you add into this that Pricesmart may have been hacked all that time, I don't even know what the ramifications of that may be on the double up of the bank accounts, but it doesn't add an irrelevant twist to the story. Good night, Nathan. Where's your host? My host is right now in between sleep and half week. Last year, TSTT made 95.2 million service charges. Yikes. It would be interesting to know the budget for the Digital Transformation Ministry. I knew it. It's a couple million well. It's a couple million well. What information and how risky is it with Pricesmart information being out there and with discrepancies coming from Pricesmart charges from to people's bank accounts? How dangerous is it? And the problem in Trinidad and Tobago is there's no legal requirement that we be informed about how exactly dangerous it is. So the Pricesmart hack, I can confirm they sent me an email last night confirming knowledge of it. Yep. Well, it's in the news here. It's pretty confirmed. And Caribbean companies seem to be a main target of these ransomware companies now. So anyone dealing with Caribbean companies online, especially in Trinidad and Tobago here, where there's no legal requirement to tell you, make sure you are on top of your issues. You see, that's the thing, with the nature of a lot of this kind of stuff. When you do things like this, what you end up doing is forcing people kind of into the private sector. People are forced to try and find solutions on their own because you are not solving it for them. The government isn't creating the legislation to help people with the assistance they need in this sphere. So now people have to try to figure it out all on their own. That's just the sad reality here. It's just the sad reality. Is Ansamacal's Bitcoin mining venture part of that ministry? As far as I know, no, they are not part of the ministry. But Ansamacal is registering record profits this year, just by the way. Ansamacal is raking it in. Jumping along to the next story that I have up here. Dealing with where we focus attention in this country. You know, last week, was it the Friday or Wednesday, I was speaking about the fact that people, certain areas, certain spheres in this country are lacking employees. And it's strange. Certain state-run agencies are lacking employees, while certain state-run agencies are replete with employees. Certain government arms are overfunded. They have excess money. They are spending money, splurging on random things left, right, and center. While certain areas, certain government arms are starving for resources. And when you look at which government arms are starving for resources, you have to ask yourself, how much of a coincidence is this really? Defunding democracy. 2 days ago, the Assistant Auditor General told Parliament's Public Accounts Committee that there are 80 vacancies for auditors in this department. The Auditor General has the important role of monitoring whether our tax dollars have been used ideally and for the purpose intended. The auditor is an extremely key role. They are the censors of corruption. You want to make a step into finding out what is happening with corruption, the Auditor General must make that step. Okay? And they are severely understaffed. Isn't that a coincidence? How does something like this happen? Just as the DPPs Office. The DPPs Office is more than 50% understaffed. How does something like that happen? And how does it keep happening? And how is that status quo maintained for years? I heard it may be difficult finding employees that are loyal. So it's so difficult in Trinidad. Yeah, Brandon Gordine. It's so difficult in Trinidad to find honest people, honest accountants to hire as auditors. Are you telling me that for real? Recently, Imbert created a whole new branch in the Treasury. Well, they are seeking to restructure the entire thing. Why y'all so wicked by? Well, isn't that the eternal question, sir? Isn't that the eternal question? TNT's Corruption Perception Index score was 42 points in 2022, making us the third most corrupt country in the Caribbean. Haiti and the Dominican Republic had lower scores. We are lodged as the third most corrupt country in the Caribbean, beaten only by the country sharing Hispaniola, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Sam Fisher says, surprised we not face. Now, I mean, it takes some doing to beat Haiti. I mean, Haiti is basically a failed state. And people would like to call Trinidad a failed state, but we are not at the same place as Haiti. If you think so, you're being dishonest, go to Haiti if you think so. Let's not go down that road. But third is pretty bad. Third is really bad. Hence, we have every reason to increase the fight against corruption, and starving the Auditor General of Staff is not the way to go. Since October 17, 2018, lest you forget, we're in 2023. 2018 was 5 years ago. Half of a decade. 5 years ago. In 2018, we were promised better. Responding to questions from the opposition during Parliament's Standing Finance Committee meeting, Finance Minister Colm Imbert, same guy, it's not like the guy changed, same guy, said that 50 of the 100 vacancies in the Auditor General's office would be filled in the next financial year. Now, 5 years later, we are still short. Good night, Rennie Hazel. It's not just the Auditor General's department which seems sidelined. The Integrity Commission's 2022 annual report states the drastic depletion of the budget can be observed by comparing 26 million allocated to the Commission in 2015 with the figure of 8.6 million allocated in 2023. So, here's what we have. The Auditor General, who is basically the guy that looks over the shoulder of the government, the guy that is checking over the government's books, the Auditor General is understaffed. And the government has known about this since at least 5 years ago. Yet it remains understaffed. They are looking to reform the revenue collection of the entire revenue collection business in Trinidad and Tobago, yet cannot find the full complement of auditors to get our Auditor General's office running. That's on one side. And on the other side, interestingly, the Integrity Commission went from a $26 million budget in 2015 to an $8.6 million budget in 2023. So we are seen as the third most corrupt nation in the Caribbean. And while we are being seen as the third most corrupt nation in the Caribbean, we are keeping our Auditor General's office understaffed and decreasing the funding of our Integrity Commission. Does that make sense to any of you? Someone has to kind of explain that one to me. How does that function? At present, there are several open positions in the commission. This is the Integrity Commission here, which cannot be filled due to a lack of funding. This has severely affected the progress of investigation of the investigations unit in particular. The unit has a total of 44 active investigations dating back to 2013. And has only closed 10 as of October 2022, as more human resources is needed to bring closure to matters at hand. All that salary they not paying for, they just pocketing and not doing their jobs. Things going just as they wanted to. You know, LSA break down 3 houses in the Wallafield area today. Big nice house. Well, I don't know, maybe the houses were illegal. I don't know. But the Integrity Commission's budget is being decreased, and the Auditor General's office is being choked of staff. We don't have enough money for those things. And on the similar tone about what we have money for, how we spend money, the DPP's office is understaffed. No, I ain't talk about that, Mr. The man that was shot outside the Belmont police station. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. It seems suspicious. I mean, what more is there to say? Condolences to his family. The death seems strange. But yeah, the DPP's office is understaffed and they don't have a building. Part of the reason they may be understaffed is because they don't have a building to place the staff in. And that building created some contention recently with the Prime Minister kind of insinuating it's not the government's fault. The government is just doing their part. The government is supplying what is needed. And the office of the DPP is the one holding it back. And when we're talking about these issues, like we were just talking about defunding the Auditor Generals and the Integrity Commission and stuff, sometimes you could overly focus on the government the government that is currently in office. But many times it's not only on them, it's the wider government apparatus that is kind of designed to fill all of each other's pockets. People who stay in jobs, whether governments change, whether governments stay the same, those people also are in positions that make decisions too. Like this case here with the DPP. The Prime Minister made it seem like the DPP was at fault for not going and entering the building. But then Ramesh Lawrence Maraj, the former Attorney General and well-known senior counsel, he basically said that it was not the DPP's fault. West, and now the public administration minister is taking him to task. West takes Maraj to task over DPP's office. Minister of Public Administration Alison West has fired back at former Attorney General Ramesh Lawrence Maraj over his comments on the Director of Public Prosecution's office scandal. You see, Maraj said what Maharaj alleged is that every office has to have a special branch report provided before they enter into the place. And he said they did that back in their time. So the DPP had all right not to enter this office because the special branch report said it wasn't safe. Suspiciously enough, Miss West said, looking back through the records, she said she saw no special branch report from in the days when Mr. Maraj was Attorney General. And also, there's a letter from the DPP dated 2014 where he accepted the building. I would remind your readers that on Friday I shared a copy of a document signed by Mr. Gaspard in 2014 in which he communicated his unreserved and unqualified endorsement of the rental of Park Court to house the office of the DPP. Specifically, his words were, after due consideration, I am of the view that the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions could and should be accommodated at those premises. No caveat was attached to this statement, so the DPP agreed to the rental of that building. The issue of a special branch report on the building was not requested until July 2020. You see how serious these people are with our money and with issues. We're talking about the Director of Public Prosecutions here. Allegedly said he agreed to the building in 2014. And in 2020 is now requesting a special branch report to find out if the building is indeed safe enough. 6 years later, tens of millions of dollars later, hundreds of delayed cases later. Oops, our bad. What we gonna do about that now? And you know, Trinidad and Tobago, White Leather says increasing crime in the vicinity of Park Street can happen in 6 years. Okay. Plus the man running on low staff, this is crazy. Increasing crime in the vicinity of Port of Spain, entirety of Port of Spain, can happen in 6 years. Come on. Like, really, that's the reasoning. After 6 years of paying for the building, never having entered the building, refusing it all along, 6 years later, oh no, snap. That area just suddenly got too dangerous. Give me an ease. Give me an ease, please. But Trinidad has a history of bad spending money like that, especially when it comes to crime issues. And it's a spit in the face when you look at the comparison here and see, okay, Auditor General's office is languishing, Integrity Commission's office is losing money every year. They keep giving them less and less money. Apparently, we don't have enough money to hire staff for the DPP. Yet, TNT's history of crime fighting failures. Little to show for $54 billion spent over 8 years. The proliferation in crime and the murder rate in TNT have been challenging government administrations over the past 2 decades, forcing them to roll out several crime fighting initiatives. They went through some of the initiatives that were rolled out over the last couple of years here. These are some of the crime initiatives governments have implemented over the years. In 2002, Then National Security Minister Howard Chinley, under the Patrick Manning-led administration, promised to put the squeeze on the nation's crime and unveiled Operation Anaconda. More than 300 policemen and soldiers carried out raids as well as searched individuals' vehicles and homes along the East-West corridor where there was an upswing in crime. You mean where there is still an upswing in crime? Another crime-fighting measure Manning used against the criminal elements was the blimp. The state-owned surveillance Skyship 600 was purchased in 2006 and was operated and maintained at an annual cost of $17,100,000. The state-owned surveillance Skyship, it was purchased for $15,750,000 after a lease arrangement that cost close to $5 million. We purchased it for $15.7 million. And it was costing $17 million per year to keep it operating. Jeez. The Skyship was used to monitor high crime areas. The Skyship, which was used to monitor high crime areas, had replaced the Sky Dragon, a $19 million investment that never worked. Eventually, the surveillance equipment was put up for sale. A US bidder offered US $50,000 for the ship. That's around what? 350,000 TT? After we paid 15.7 million. Going along, the Citizen Security Program was launched in 2007. Was aimed at preventing violence in 22 high-risk communities. The program, initiated by the National Security Ministry and partially financed by the Inter-American Development Bank, was shut down. According to then National Security Minister Edmund Dillon, the CSP was funded through a loan from the IADB of US $24.5 million. The total budget for the program was US $35 million. There was a shroud of secrecy in 2009 regarding details about Cameron Ross' anti-crime plan for Manning's government. The plan, masterminded by 60-year-old Ross, a retired Major General from Canada, focused on restructuring the country's security arrangements. Little or no information was revealed about this crime plan. Next one, a program initiated by the People's Partnership government under then Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar to help deal with crime and criminality was the Housing Development Corporation's 2011 Color Me Orange. I don't know many of you all remember that. Color Me Orange, which created employment for persons in hotspot communities. And as we go through some of the People's Partnership / UNCs, good morning, men inspirations. As we go through some of their crime plans, look at the difference in it. Look at more where their intention was. It seemed like PNM had more of the old school, similar to what the Prime Minister now seems intended on. Trust the police and just push more police operations as much as you could kind of way. But it seems like the UNC had a much more populist lean, maybe even left wing, where they saw that, you know, if you pump money into some of these areas, maybe the criminals would find a nice job and decide to turn away from their life of crime. Let's see how that worked. It was alleged that this Color Me Orange program was instead fueling crime, with $63.4 million was spent on salaries during its 3 phases. Eventually, the program had to be shelved. The PP government also launched the Hoop of Life Community Basketball League project, which saw American basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal lecturing to men to leave behind their lives of crime. The 2012 project was touted as a new initiative by the then government to bring about positive change in the lives of the youth of the country. The inaugural program was staged at a cost of $12 million over a 3-year period, bringing the total figure to $36 million. Prasad Bisesa had said the victory was not only for the team, but for everyone who lived in the Laventille community. She said when Laventille was at peace, creativity prospered, and when it was at war, national development was hurt. Less than 2 years after the program got off the ground, it was estimated to have cost the taxpayers $70 million, according to then National Security Minister Gary Griffith. The program ended in 2014 as it was not renewed. That's $70 million. You could have taken that in cash and spread it out among the people inside Laventille and probably done more good. At least they try something. No, I don't agree with that many inspirations. You see, that's the kind of thinking that would have you dead. That would have them robbing you blind, and every time they rob you, the excuse is, well, we're just trying something, you know, we have to try something. And no, you don't have to try something. No, you don't have to try something. I'm not buying the at least you try something after you move away with some $100 million of our money. Nah, I'm not taking that. The UNC also injected $400 million into the controversial live sport program created in 2012 to help at-risk youths to turn around their lives as the authorities deal with the spiraling crime. The program had to be terminated in 2014 by Prasad Bisesa, and an audit of the program showed a number of irregularities, including alleged fraud, absence of proper procurement practices, overpayment for goods and services, theft, questionable payment, and possible criminal activities. Statements from members of the TTPS suggested that there may have been criminal elements in positions of supervision and coordination within the program. It was recommended that the matter be referred to the Director of Public Prosecutions and the relevant law enforcement agencies. So yeah, more. Best they try something. That's another one. Another 400 million, you know, to help the poor people. So, you know, the ghetto youths. 400 million to help the ghetto youths. How many ghetto youths do you think got any real help out of that $400 million? Versus how many already very wealthy people just got a little extra on top of their wealth with that $400 million. In mid-2017, Project Reason, which was based on the Cure Violence Intervention model, was prematurely terminated for administrative reasons. The PNM also pulled the Community Comfort Patrol program 1 year after assuming office in 2015, resulting in 300 workers being sent home. This program, implemented by the UNC in 2014, was to make citizens feel safer in their homes and communities, but was reportedly costing the state millions of dollars annually. In 2018, Health Minister Terence Dialsing told the Parliament that the contract to rent the vehicles for the CCP program was $120 million a year. To help the poor people. You know, to make you feel safe. We rent in private vehicles to give people to drive around your neighborhood to help you to feel safe. Just by the way, we are going to pay friends and financiers $120 million per year in rentals. I urge you, go back, reread who they were renting those vehicles from. Find the familiar names. See those people who right now would talk about, I am country first, you know, nobody can buy me. I only raise my voice to help the country of Trinidad and Tobago. I am country first. I'm just a patriot looking to help my country. I'm an activist to help my country. See how many of them maybe rented cars for for part of that $120 million. Reading news long enough, it allows you to keep certain names in your mind. And you recognize regularly when people come back as a new face. It's a same old face. Yes, Evangelista. Yes, that's what we were speaking about there. During his term as National Security Minister, another one, Edmund Dillon launched the National Crime Prevention Program in 2018 as he called on the government, opposition, and citizens to put aside their differences in the war on crime. In 2019, the PNM government conceptualized the military-led academic training program designed to help at-risk youth at ages 16 to 20. Last August, the future of the program arose after termination notices were allegedly given to staff members, ending their respective contracts. This was denied by the Ministry of Youth Development and National Services, which stated that the program was only suspended due to the COVID-19. The most recent crime-fighting measure introduced last September by the TTPS, then acting Police Commissioner MacDonald Jacob, was the Gang Reduction and Community Empowerment Project, GRACE, which was aimed at reducing gang activity and strengthening the TTPS community-based policing initiatives. Yeah. How many of these programs saw any real benefit? Millions of dollars spent. The total is what? $54 billion over the last 8 years. Like, I wonder to myself, if we took that $54 billion and just spread it up a couple dollars between the citizens of the country, you're not going to get an amazing amount of money, really and truly. But you know, you just split up that 54 billion between the people in the country. If we did that and allowed people to defend themselves with whatever they found fit, if we might have gotten a better result. I wonder sometimes. You know, it's a cynical wonder, but I do wonder sometimes. 54 billion is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Benefits for the intended recipients. I guess then, Dalip Jairam, the question is, who are those intended recipients? Eh? Who are those recipients? We may not have to work till 65. Ha! Correct, Sylvan. Correct. The pension might have been saved. The pension might have been saved. Maybe we wouldn't have had to pay the property taxes. Maybe some of the subsidies on gas wouldn't have had to have been removed. But somebody had to make a 10 million per month on renting cars. But now, I think more and more now, we are seeing private people attempting to get solutions of their own. And this is, to me, the logical outcome of a lot of this. If you allow a lot of this to reach the end of its logical course, that's where you're going to end. To me, that's what I see. You leave it to run its logical course, and you're going to end at private people attempting to get things solved all on their own. Let's look at this article, jumping in over there. In Tunapuna businesses set up CCTV alarm system. How can we hold them accountable though? That's very difficult. Basically, politicians are held accountable by voting them out. Basically. Unfortunately, like, I wish there was a better alternative. I wish there was something that, you know, we could do that was more short-term and immediate. But unfortunately, really and truly, a lot of what we can do is just vote them out. Once they're voted in, there isn't much you can do in the moment. Lamb over on YouTube saying, call the names, sir. I wear MindFULL t-shirts. I don't wear court clothes. These names that you're trying to get me to call Mr. over there on YouTube, no thanks. But yes, private businesses seem to be jumping in to trying to solve some of these issues themselves. Tunapuna businesses set up CCTV alarm system as crime continues to permeate the very fabric of TNT. The community of Tunapuna is fighting back. It is, however, using intelligence and surveillance monitoring not only to safeguard businesses, but also citizens. This is all being done through an initiative called the Silent Operating System, which is the brainchild of the Tunapuna Police Station Community Council, whose president is Neil Buru Singh. So, can we call an election with a petition? No, I do not think that is the law in Trinidad and Tobago where an election can be called with a petition. But you can, if you could make enough noise, like this is what many people hope for with protesting, etc. Like if you could make enough noise where you make enough sectors of the country believe that the country is not functioning with the current leadership, then you may have a chance of the leadership having to call an election, forcing them to do it because different vested interests will start putting on pressure. So if workers aren't going out to work, if there's a lot of industrial action, trade unions are acting up, then employers are starting to would start to want to put the squeeze onto the government to do something about it. We're not going to make money. If crime is rampant and people are starting to react violently, then again businesses won't be able to continue. They will start to put the squeeze on the government. So it's according to people with power putting squeeze on the government. So for example, in 2010, Patrick Manning called the election earlier. And I think some of that was because civil society was in a bit of an uproar. The union, along with the NGOs, along with different activist organizations, were up and down the country making much uproar. So it kind of pushed things in that direction. Still going and vote for the same people anyway. Nobody wants change. It's not necessarily that nobody wants change, but understanding the electoral system, you understand how people could feel trapped in it also. Because even if we could recall someone, we're just going with the other alternative. Like, okay, if we could force Mr. Rowley to call an election now, if PNM loses, UNC wins. If UNC loses, PNM wins. Are we sure that any one of those will be better than any one of those? So that's why people talk about democracy being an illusion of choice. So even if you could write a petition and force an election, who are you going to vote in? Could try PEP. I just spoke about the idea that, well, at least we try something, and somehow trying something is seen as a positive. I am not one with the try something as an automatic positive. There are many more ways things could get worse than they can get better. Keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that the PEP isn't a totally unknown entity. It's not like, wow, these people sound so promising, they sound perfect, and they sound like they have all the answers, and nobody involved ever had an opportunity to try any of these ideas, so let's give them a chance. No, many of these people were in and around politics for a very long time. Many of them only really jumped into PEP when they were booted out of other groups or weren't allowed to join other groups. Then all of a sudden the sour grapes decided to make their own group. And you don't bring credence to yourself like that. You don't bring credence to yourself like that. If you went up for PNM and PNM didn't want you, then you went up for UNC, and UNC tell you no, and then you decided, well, I'm going to form my own party, and I want you all to vote for me. I am not voting for you if I don't like PNM and I don't like UNC. If I think the PNM has a bad leadership culture, UNC has a bad leadership culture, and you are willing to subject yourself to both and neither wanted you, why should I? So the other option isn't an automatic positive. It's not an automatic positive. You evaluate the other option the same way, using your intelligence, looking, evaluating what they say, whether it's realistic, whether it's possible, whether they're talking within the realm of doability, or they're just talking pie in the sky nonsense to attempt to force you to vote for them. So Tunapuna is doing the silent operating system. The idea is that they're going to set up camera systems on the outside along the main roads, etc., so that they can keep tabs on what is happening. And they would have emergency panic buttons, as it were, on little fobs that they can press in case of emergency. And when they press these buttons, the camera in that location is going to stream directly to the police along with other security agencies. Now, the reason they're setting up these more communal cameras, even though most businesses have CCTV systems, good night Chambers, good night Curvon, part of the reasoning is because they were saying that many businesses are afraid to give the police CCTV footage because they're worried that if this reaches to the court or anything like that, then they're going to be forced to give evidence against the criminal, and they don't want to be involved in any of that. So here's what, I'm not giving you any of my CCTV footage. But if it's a communal business, then they don't have to be worried about the footage being handed over to the police. The police would already have it. And also, the police would be able to have an instant view of what situation is occurring, who is involved, what their getaway vehicle might be, which direction they're headed in. This sounds like a great idea. And I like ideas like this, where the private sector, you bypass government, private working directly with the police to try and get something done. Forget about Fitzgerald Hines and Mr. Raul. Forget about them. Seek your own private interests. See, Philip have to pay Michaela $0.9 million. Well, many of those guys give their mouth more liberty than they should. To me, I don't know. I don't know. Somebody may attempt to sue me someday, but I'm pretty sure no one is going to win a lawsuit like that because I don't speak recklessly like that. I'm not going to say something that is uncorroborated, that the news agencies don't have. I hear in a shushu talk in the corner of a bar and I come on the people's good internet to say it like I know it to be true. I must be a madman. It's a good initiative. I like most of it, except the fact that they want access to your data service. Which data service is that? Yes, there is a rental fee for the camera, but the businesses in the region are splitting up the rental costs. So I think they're going to pay like $60-something per business. So it's even going to be cheaper than that. And they're saying Tunapuna is the pilot. They may be looking to open this up in Shogunas and other business districts. And I like the idea. I don't like perfectly the surveillance state kind of idea where you're always under the eyes of someone else, but especially now if you're saying that this surveillance state, that this cameras have to connect to Wi-Fi. Which Wi-Fi? Whose Wi-Fi? I suppose it would be Wi-Fi supplied by the businesses, and from your provider. I don't get what you mean. So the cameras are going to access what? Oh, well, if it's accessing the business's Wi-Fi, I don't think businesses are going to have a problem with that. But yeah, the surveillance state technology, I don't like it. I'm not enthused about that really and truly. But in this case, it's not exactly the government installing these cameras. It's kind of like the business district installing the cameras. If Shogunas business district, the business people of Shogunas, want to keep eyes on what happens within their business district, I kind of don't have a problem with that. It's like if you walk into a store and the store owner has a camera system inside the store. Like, I don't mind, watch me while I'm inside your store. I'm okay with that. And it's not even like it's the state. It's not a state-run surveillance system. It's a private-run surveillance system. That's you're talking up my kind of alley there. You're talking up my kind of alley a lot more there. I'm not sure I have too many problems with that. Even more so where the plan is to keep it within business districts too. I see much more positives than negatives coming out of something like this. But it's the people having to do it all on their own. Well, not all on their own, but the idea from the people, bypassing the government to some extent. And I see over in Bamboo, they're having some problems with an idea, like, well, not exactly like this, but an idea of the people doing it all on their own when it comes to security also. Bamboo guard booth illegal. Works Minister Rohan Sinanan says he will consult the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation on the erection of a security booth at the entrance of Bamboo No. 2 Valsane. Activist / businessman in Ishmael claims the work ministry wants the booth gone in days. In an interview at the site of the booth, which was under construction yesterday, Ishmael said that over 99% of residents met 4 months ago amid ongoing safety concerns. We had 3 cases of extortion attempts on businesses in the area, but not only that, we had an imam and his family being robbed. We have had people held up and we have even had predial larceny, he said. He added, however, that residents may have a built-in advantage as a community, as there was only one way in and out. So therefore, the only solution is a guard booth, because in none of the extortion attempts was anyone held. So therefore, we don't want it to reach to the stage where there has been extortion number 15 and still nothing was done, he said. So we all agreed that we have to do something, and it was agreed that our guard booth will be installed at the entrance of Bamboo No. 2. He said yesterday morning, however, representatives from the Ministry of Works showed up and told residents that a vending booth was being constructed. The officials then erected a no vending sign near to the booth. I was confused because nobody has any intentions of vending there, Ishmael said. He said that minutes later he got a call from one of his managers who told him that the Works Ministry advised him that the structure while not intended for vending, was an illegal one, and that beginning yesterday, Wednesday, they had 7 days to remove it. Well, I just contacted my attorney and people know me. I am very familiar with court and I'm very familiar with jail, so I'm challenging the ministry now, Ishmael said. Let them come and move one block and it's litigation like that, he slammed. Don't lie, Nathan. Speak the truth. Be one with the goldstone golem. LA Mel, hold a mute for something like a mad person. Hold a little mute. Find your song and little disturb there. Well, I work in the Bamboo, and this is an initiative that was petition signed by almost all the residents and businesses. That yeah, and you could kind of wonder why I don't even know. Let me not go there. You could kind of wonder, like, what's the point the ministry is trying to prove here? The people are worried about their security. It's their community. They are in danger. They are paying for the security measure. And you're going to come and tell them, no? What? What sense does that make? How does that figure? Ishmael firm on Bamboo guard boot. We will rebuild it if destroyed. Businessman and community activist says residents of Bamboo Number 2 are prepared to keep rebuilding a security guard booth if it is destroyed by the authorities. Ishmael said residents and business people were firm in their resolve to have the security guard booth at the entrance to Bamboo Number 2 as they were frustrated over a spate of robberies and extortion attempts. And I give them right. Bamboo guard booth may cause traffic, so what? Small price to pay if it brings safety in your community. Like, I am more okay with the residents that live in a community setting up a security checkpoint for their community than I am with the government doing it. Like, I would feel better entering Bamboo with a Bamboo resident and business run security guard booth than if I were to enter Bamboo and it was a TTPS government guard booth. Nah. If you enter with a TTPS guard booth, then it's traffic. Very likely they might give you a ticket before you enter too. You're going to change your headlight and they give you a ticket for bad headlight before you get your headlight. A guard booth from residents and businesses inside Bamboo. Bear in mind, the guard booth would be there to seek the Bamboo's better interest. They will not have interest in sticking traffic entering into their business place. For all you know, that guard booth might eventually get a map on it, a registry. They're telling you who you're looking for, Bobbies. You write down there. Who you want? The Suzuki man. You go and you take the second left and you go right down. Hey, I see a lot of women coming into the Bamboo and they are genuinely afraid. So security will be a plus for the safety for all persons entering the Bamboo. Yes, it will be. It will be. And the Bamboo is changing to some extent. The Bamboo isn't just a man's play area anymore. It's not just a man's zone where a set of oily mechanics in dirty clothes and dirty vehicles go. There are people, they are what is it, normal people, like mechanics and men are normal people. But just as Chambers is saying, you know, women who are working, women in their working clothes, regular people who aren't too familiar with the intricacies of the haggling and the hassling. There's bamboo shoot, bamboo sprout, the baby clothing store. Listen, they have that's the link. Trust me, they have the link on proper baby clothes. But they're in there, a baby clothing store inside the Bamboo also. It's not the same place it once was. I don't think a guard booth will be something negative. What that might, it's nearly like you're turning the entirety of the mall, of the Bamboo into a kind of walk-in mall. A drive-in mall, if you will. We are not far from requiring privatized police. We are not, Curvon. And you see, this is the reality. The private free market always has a solution for all of these things. If public police don't work, people will hire private police. We are seeing this in Trinidad because, you see, here's the problem that the public and the state, public agencies and the state would always suffer for in Trinidad. Trinidadians are not poor. I'm going to read an interesting article coming off right after I said that. But by and large, Trinidadians are not poor. We are relatively wealthy relative to other countries like us. So when things are badly run by the state, there are private people who can offer viable private solutions. Trinidad has free public health care. And like every other day, a new private hospital is being opened. Like, nobody opens a doctor's office anymore. Like, where Dr. Harry's office just at the side of a building renting 2 rooms. They don't do that anymore. Dr. Harry's is opening Harry's Medical Institute. And it's a massive commercial building. A senior lady police recommended using TTPS and police affiliated security companies privately recently. Well, the truth is, many of our private security companies in Trinidad are if not run, oftentimes managed and staffed at the higher ranks by police officers. That's just the fact. Many of the security companies have police officers, current and former police officers, working for them. But yeah, Trinidad has money, so private people provide private solutions. The government can't stop the government can't provide security enough for the community. The community is attempting to provide security for itself in varying ways. Cameras, a guard booth, whichever way we see fit. A last couple stories here for the evening. A topic that is a bit dear to me. I speak about this a lot. Yes, that's true, Paul Duncan. Poverty in Trinidad is real. This is a commentary piece in the news, the Trinidad news. The poverty in Trinidad is real. For once in here and time. Hey, Heck Senpai, it's been a long time, bro. OG. This commentary is coming from Surajratan Rambachan. He was a former member of parliament under the UNC, a former politician. He wrote this letter to the editor, basically a commentary piece. Poverty in Trinidad is real. I let it be said basically here that I basically disagree with this statement. I almost always say this: poverty in Trinidad, in terms of absolute poverty, is not real. That's my view. There are poor people, but the situations, the reason for lack in Trinidad isn't a lack of resources. The reason people are in difficult situations isn't a lack of resources. It's not finding resources to get to them, if you understand what I mean. So there are people in destitute situations in Trinidad, but the reason they are there isn't directly a lack of resources. That's what I mean when I say poverty isn't real in Trinidad like that. But let's see what he means here. Despite what the statistics show, the fact is that poverty is a real issue in our country. The recent deaths by fire of a mother and daughter who lived in a galvanized walled shack in Charleville with no electricity nor running water and a fireside to cook speaks volumes about the plight of so many people, especially single mothers. The story as reported in the media is that fire would have started as a result of the fireside. But more than this, the child had discontinued school due to financial hardship. She lost her life in the fire, but she had already lost her future. Incidents like this should not be cause to judge people. For me, why people are where they are today is of lesser concern than what we must do to improve their chances of survival and build a sustainable future. And you see that line? You see that line? I think that line is the curse of modern politics. And if you go back through, those of you who were in the live all along, if you go back through the initiatives that the UNC threw out during their tenure as the People's Partnership, a lot of their initiatives had thinking like this. Mr. Rambachan said, incidents like this, and we are going to go and read over the very tragic incident where a mother and daughter lost their lives. But he said incidents like that should not be a cause to judge people. For him, why people are where they are today is of lesser concern than what we must do to improve their chances of survival and build a sustainable future. But to me, why people are where they are today, figuring that out, is how you improve their chances of survival and build a sustainable future. If you don't figure out how people are in the situation they are in, and you just try to pull them out of the same people with the very big hats that say, well, they are homeless people and they are empty houses. So we take all of these street dwellers and put them in the empty houses there, and now we have no more homeless people, and that solves the problem. Like, if it will. Because you need to figure out what caused that person to be on the street in the first place. Because if you put them in a house, the same cause that caused them to be on the street may cause them to return to the street, or worse yet, may cause them to die inside of that house. I remember that curve on, and I hated the idea. Let's go to the very tragic story of this mother and daughter dying in a house fire. Mother-daughter die in house fire. Very sad story. Rina Ramadan, 39, and her daughter Rihanna Bagan died when fire gutted their shack at Cemetery Street, Warner Village, Chaguanas, around midnight. Villagers said Ramadan was unemployed and had stopped her daughter from school at the Chaguanas North Secondary School. Ramadan was facing financial problems and occasionally got work as a domestic helper. The house had no electricity, and the family cooked on a fireside with wood. The fire started in the kitchen, living room, and dining room. A neighbor contacted the police around 12:40 a.m. after observing through her CCTV camera that her neighbor's house was on fire. When the fire services arrived and extinguished the blaze, they found the charred remains in the bedroom area of the house. Neighbors described the house as a one-room small wooden structure. Police said they were unable to confirm the identities of the bodies since they were badly burnt. The cause of the blaze is yet to be ascertained. Chaguanas firefighters and police officers are investigating. Her mother, the grandmother of the girl, who lives 150 feet north of her, was hospitalized last Friday for anemia. There are several parts to this story. People familiar with my life know I don't usually go into stories like this because this is people's personal lives, and drawing opinions on people's personal lives could get dicey real quick. It's somebody else's life. I rather talk about my opinions on ideologies and theories and political strategy and crime and stuff, people's personal life. But I think there are wider lessons we could talk about with this, and it was brought up in the previous letter about poverty in Trinidad as an example of this. Now, for one, I think investigations would have to be had here because the lady recently stopped her daughter from school, and her mother was recently hospitalized. And then a fire that started while they were cooking in a one-room shack managed to end the life of two healthy people, 14 and 39. I don't know, but the situation has possibilities of self-infliction to some extent. I don't know that, but that's one. Because clearly this was a very depressing, unfortunate situation, and her mother was just hospitalized. We have here an unemployed woman with a child. Children are not made by a woman alone. So, in this case of poverty, there is someone else that is supposed to be involved. It's not just the system failed and the woman can't get a job to see about her child. There's supposed to be someone else in the picture there. And in Trinidad, if that someone else died, there's a widow's fund in Trinidad. Where were the churches and temples and mandates? Betty Braxton asks. Betty Braxton, you may be surprised if you find out the details. If you find out the details about a situation like this, I'm not making any assumptions here. I am asking questions and making suggestions. I'm not making any assumptions. I made no assumptions yet. And as I was saying, Betty Braxton, you may be surprised you find out the full details of the situation, and you may find out that some church mandir or mosque was right there, church mandir or temple was right there attempting to help her, for all you know. Because in Trinidad, that's actually a pretty common thing. I went back to this story just to show, because the former minister drew this as an example. Drew this as an example to show how poverty is so real in Trinidad and Tobago. And we don't need to ask about how someone reached in a situation. We just need to figure out a way to get them out. And I think that's ridiculous. Even in a situation like this that he drew as the example, that's how I reached to this situation. Even in a situation like this, questions need to be asked, because there are obvious questions to be asked. It's not just a matter of Trinidad has poverty, because when you read the situation, there are gaping knowledge holes that you need to find out about to just make the assumption that this entire tragedy was just the fault of poverty. That's the point I am making. The reason I say not to go down the line of this just being the fault of poverty is because when you go down that road, the solutions you attempt sometimes creates more harm. Like the ones we just went through. Color Me Orange, Hoops for Life, Life Sport. Did any of those programs create millionaire bandits, millionaire criminals? Did any of those programs finance a criminal gang into importing a load of guns? Who knows? Maybe. They will always have poverty on some level. Well, you see, that's why I specified absolute poverty. Because absolute poverty refers to the lack of resources to fulfill your needs of life. You can't get enough resources to live. You're struggling to get that. That's the absolute poverty. Less than $1 a day or something like that. But if you're talking relative poverty, there would always be relative poverty, because there would always be people relatively poorer than other people. The poor will always be with us. Yes, that's a Bible verse. That's a piece actually from the Bible. So there would always be people in the system who have less. And anytime you have a system that has freedom, any system with freedom is going to have poverty. If I am free to make whatever choices I want, can't I make the choice to be poor? Freedom in a system allows for poverty. I can make the choice to be poor. Now, you might say that nobody wants to make the choice to be poor, and you might be correct that nobody wants to make the choice to be poor, but you still can make the choice to be poor. Even if you don't want to, you still can make that choice. And if you made the choice to be poor, is it on the system to forbid you from getting the consequences of your choices? Is that what the system is supposed to do? Is the system supposed to prevent people from getting the consequences of their choices? Plenty of persons choose poverty subconsciously based on generational habits. True, that's true. Correct. Let's go back to the poverty article because there's more in this I want to cover to show you even further why I have some problems with this kind of stuff. Reflecting on the plight of our poor people. This is back to the Suraj Ratan Rambachan article. Reflecting on the plight of our poor people, my mind is transported to a former minister, Dr. Glenn Ramadas Singh, who headed a ministry called Ministry of the People. When this ministry was announced by the then PM Kamla Prasad Visesa, it was scoffed at. However, for those who are not strangers to the truth, Ramadas Singh was effective in attending to people issues on a timely basis and with great compassion, often teaming up with the National Self-Help Commission. The response rate and positive intervention remain legendary up to today. We need to do more as a government. Betty Braxton says true that. All right, you say true that too. Okay, people have short memories. When you go out to help the poor people, when you put someone in charge of helping desperate, destitute people, how much power do you think that person needs to have? I know quite a few people personally that got help from Glenn. Well, let's go, James TNT. Let's go to someone else who personally, real personally, got help from Dr. Glenn, allegedly. This is an article from the Express, an old Express article. Glenn in sex probe. Glenn in sex probe. He became a multi-millionaire over the 5-year stint. Yes. Police are investigating a report by a 47-year-old woman alleging that she was made to perform sex acts on fired government minister Dr. Glenn Ramadas Singh when she went to him for assistance to fast-track a Housing Development Corporation application. The Sunday Express has learned that the woman her name was given, accompanied by her attorney Nizam Mohammed, went to the Port of Spain CID office last Friday and reported the matter. According to the police report, the 2 sex acts occurred at the Ministry of the People and Social Development at the corner of Independence Square and Abercrombie Street, Port of Spain office in 2011 and 8 weeks ago. No, it was not Sasha James TNT. It was a poor woman from Central Trinidad. And after she heard, I don't know if you all remember, there were allegations that Dr. Glenn, that he had a kind of less than appropriate interaction with a flight attendant coming from Tobago. Those were those allegations, and the flight attendant made those allegations public. And after those allegations, the lady said that, you know, she got the confidence to come forward with her allegations because, you know, it was really eating at her for a really long time. Yes, Kervon, I appreciate your memory. You do remember. Yes, he was. And the lady's picture was there too, because the lady gave the newspaper her picture. The lady gave the newspaper her picture. She gave the newspaper her full name. She didn't ask them to hide her name because she said she wanted to come forward with this. She had the picture as evidence. She had text messages. She showed them the missed calls from him after it was found out she was going to the newspaper with the story. James, he did way more than grab that. That was the Caribbean Airlines flight attendant, was the allegation of the grabbing. Now, here's an interesting piece here. The Sunday Express learned that Singh intends to file a complaint with the Integrity Commission this week for the matter to be investigated. Any of y'all were listening from the start on what going on with the investigations coming out from the Integrity Commission? So very likely, what would be the stage of her investigation? None of the investigations from the Integrity Commission can be completed because the Integrity Commission is being, their budget is being undercut. So, hard luck for that. The Sunday Express learned Singh had previously told an official in the office of the Prime Minister, an attorney, a church elder, and a former government minister about the alleged sex act she performed on Ramadan Singh. Singh said she went to seek assistance from Ramadan Singh to get a house for her mute 74-year-old uncle Haider Khan and herself. I also knew that the ministry deals with food cards. I received a food card, but what has happened to me is not right, she said. Singh said on 2 occasions she was made to perform acts on Ramadan Singh when she visited the ministry for an update on the housing application. Regretting her action, Singh told the Express she allowed her desperation and her vulnerable situation to get the better of me. It is me and my deaf and dumb uncle living in a one-room apartment. I am scraping to pay $2,000 a month rent. I do not know what it is to have a good life. I went through 17 years of domestic violence abuse, and all I want is to live for God now. I was so excited to meet the minister that when my mother, aunt, and I went to meet him for the first time, I asked if I could take a photograph with him. You know, I am a poor woman, and to me, ministers are high people. We did not have an appointment. We left Central determined to see the minister to get some assistance. I considered the former minister to be an action man who helped people. No, it was not, James. I am telling you, the woman's full name is there, and that's not who it was. That's not who it was. James, are you trying to defend the man against this claim? I am getting a feeling like you're trying to defend the man against this claim, because this is all alleged, but the facts surrounding the matter seem kind of irrefutable to some extent. And he was fired from his party for it. Are you trying to defend this? That's why I said it was all alleged. And he was allegedly fired from his party. No, he was actually fired. Like, yes, she was, Scuvon. Yes, she was. I know very well who she is. I really, when you see things like this, you understand how kings could have gotten away with basically anything. There are some people who, once someone is on their side, it's okay. So she gave up the goods for a house she never got. Jesse Ann Roberts, that's what you get from that? That's what you got from that? She gave up the goods for a house she never got? That's the conclusion you got from that. A minister who is the minister of the people had a poor woman come to him That's not what happened, Jesse Ann Roberts. That's not what happened. Wow. She played with the wrong to it having Minister of Housing. Honestly, Jesse Ann and James, you all disgust me. Very honestly, you all disgust me. Because situations like this, many females, women in unfortunate situations face situations like this against powerful men. And the upholders oftentimes are worse than the criminals themselves. And your attitudes are the attitudes of upholders. She play with the wrong balls. Is James TNT's comment on that? Yeah. When you see things like that, you just get an understanding of where many people's heads are at. That people hold politicians at high esteem, of which they are definitely undeserving. That's a fact. That's a fact. If anything, that's a fact. There's a reason that coercion is a crime. There's a reason that it happens all the time, but why put yourself in such because you are poor? I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. But the person who takes advantage of a poor person is also culpable. Like, okay, a poor person should not sell themselves. You should attempt to hold your dignity. But if you read this story, she was pressured into something in a short moment, and she wasn't very well off. So she was pressured and felt the pressure of her circumstances too. Those things happen. You shouldn't do that. If you are on the side, you should die with your dignity, yes. But you should not excuse a monster of a man who does something like that. Like, a woman going into a minister's office for assistance and being soft raped by the minister is being excused by you because the lady should have known better. The lady should not have done that. Am I really hearing? Jessie Ann, you're a woman, right? I'm seeing this correctly. Jessie Ann is a woman. It's a woman profile I'm reading here. Jessie Ann Roberts. That's a woman's profile. You know that I have been in such situations and I did not allow that person to take advantage. Yeah, sure, Jessie Ann. Let me see how you look if you really were in such. Why we victim blaming? Personally, I wouldn't give that ministry to young unmarried men. Of course you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. There's a reason that Jeffrey Epstein, for one, there's a reason that Weinstein is going to spend the rest of his life in jail. There's a reason for that. Many of the women that Weinstein was accused of could be said that they put themselves in position. It could be said that. But if you as a man are in a position of power and use the power to exert influence over a woman, to take from her, you have stolen. You know what that's like? That's like me as a big man. Me as a big man. I go up to a child and I say, you know what that's like? That's like taxing in the school days. I don't know how many of you were in a school where, you know, you saw some taxing. That's like taxing in the school days. A group of fellas walk up to the little scrawny Form 1 and say, hey, you man, give me a 20 dinner. No, I don't have no money, you know. All I have is the $10 to go home. Oh, yeah, give me that. But I have my money to go home, boy. I say, give me that, boy. Yeah, look. That youth man stupid. Watch, he get them money. He get them money. That the youth man fault no. He get them money to go home. Watch, he had to beg for money to go home now. Them youth men stupid. Watch, he give away money. Are you an idiot? Are you an idiot? Oh, that is bullying. I see. But holding a house over a woman who has a deaf and dumb uncle living at home with her, struggling to pay $2,000 rent, holding that over her and coercing her into sexual acts that she did not want to commit, that she verbally told him she doesn't want to do while he is forcing her, that's not bullying. That one is not bullying. But if your little child get taxed, that's bullying, right? Are you listening to yourself? Is it just that the UNC party card has you thinking this way? Or is it that he gave you a house, and because he gave you a house, you're going to excuse him with rape? Is that it? You got something from him, so you're willing to excuse it? Because I just struggle to see what logic you are attempting to use here. And no, my day, I can tell you my story, but it's a lot. I'm sure you can tell me, and I'm sure it's a lot. But I'm sure you don't know that woman rape, alleged rape, because the woman should not have put herself in that position. You can say both at the same time. I could say that a woman shouldn't put herself in a risky position. A woman shouldn't try to test safety and try to test fate and put herself in a position where she would be at risk. But I will never say that makes the criminal excused. What? What are you talking about? So, if you go into a public office and a minister, well, we know that might not happen to everybody, but and a minister tries to tell you, come in here, come. And you're like, no, I don't want to do, what are you trying to tell me? And he say, come in, and he try to pull long his pants and thing. You find nothing is wrong with that. All you're supposed to do is walk out. Nothing is wrong, you know. Nothing is wrong. You're supposed to just walk out. Yeah, she did, Paul Duncan. She did. It really threw me off, you know. It really threw me off. I'm telling you honestly. I was like, wait, what? How do you get that from this story? You get from this story that she give it up for this and she didn't get it and now she vexed. Like, what? You know what? That sounds like the mother of a rapist. You all ever hear the excusing mother of rapists? Yeah, them girl too fresh. Them get what I was looking for. I've heard some. They crawl your blood. To hear you know, you would think that a woman in their maternal instinct, a woman understanding themselves in situations like that, no way they could think about situations in such negative lights. But you see some woman and her little rapist son and the kind of nastiness they will see about a victim just to get off. It's amazing, yo. I know if you're lying enough of my lives, I do my share of victim blaming, you know. Because I'm of the view as the victim, you are the one, you're supposed to be in charge of your situation. So you as the victim looking back over your situation, you're supposed to be looking at things you could have done differently. Yes, agreed. As a victim, that's what you do. If I was talking to a victim of something and they're in that position, that might be what we're discussing. What we could have done differently or something like that in the future, what you could do differently. What if I'm talking about the general morality of a situation? Yeah, the victim should not have put them... You should not have walked down Charlotte Street with your big gold chain. You should not have done that. You should have known better. But the man should not have grabbed your gold chain either. The criminal who grabbed your chain isn't a cool guy. I'm not okay with him grabbing your gold chain because you weren't supposed to walk with it down Charlotte Street. How did this discussion come up? I missed the beginning of the live. Well, this discussion came up because a former MP wrote a letter to the paper speaking about the poverty in Trinidad, that poverty is real in Trinidad and Tobago. And he drew an example of one, the lady and her daughter who died in the galvanized shed in the Shogunas district there. And we went through that to show how there are questions about that where you could ask about how someone got into a situation. And he said that you don't ask about how someone gets into a situation, you just about how you're going to get them out. But to me, finding out how someone got into a situation is very important in trying to get them out. And then he went on to say, the minister went on to say that the ideal we should be looking for from the government is that former minister in the Ministry of the People. And I had to point out, when we put this charismatic person in the ministry to deal with poor, desperate, destitute people, like a single mother with a daughter, just like the mother who died in the house, that mother who died in the house could have gone to a minister like that one and would have been told to suck my so-and-so in order to get a house, because that's what she was told. And then she would have had to go back home in her galvanized house with her one child and no job. So yeah, that's the solution that the minister was saying. And that's why I went back through history to point out the last time we actually put the solution that he was proposing into play. Where, you know, let me try something, them really help people. You know? Someone was saying that in the live when we were speaking about that minister and the Ministry of the People, that them real help people. And you know, they were really helpful. They were really helpful. And maybe they helped some. But you see the price to be paid. And here's the thing. When you read the outline of that allegation, the allegation was that when she went into the room, he didn't even stick. He just dipped his hand down her blouse before she knew what was going on. Because he understood she was poor and he was in a position of power. But what that made me ask myself since 2014 when I read it is, if he did it so boldly to her, do you think she was the only desperate poor woman he would have done that to? If the allegations are true, that he did that to her with that kind of boldness and confidence, do you think that was the only woman? And then, is it that what we want to solve poverty is to put someone in an exalted position where all the poor, destitute people in the country could go and beg them? Or is poverty solved elsewhere? That government has the solution, government is the key, government going to do it for sure. You're putting your hope in individual politicians there. Poverty is a problem in Trinidad and Tobago, you know. And how are we going to solve that? Give a politician the power to solve poverty. Mm-hmm. Sure. That would work. Anyway, folks, that's all I have for now. Any further comments or questions inside of the live? Trini Otep says in all caps, be mindful, not mindless. Blessings and good night to you, Otis. All right, people, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been the Mindful Live. I am Nathan Spring. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow evening, starting around that 9 p.m. time. So until then, people, hit that like button, drop a comment if you are looking at this on YouTube. Drop that delayed comment. I'm still waiting to see that. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. Adios, people.